My grandfather, who was a Marxist Yiddish journalist, went back and forth between here and the USSR and back here, and wrote for the Morgen Freiheit.
My father was active in Tsarist Russia in organizing the self-defense.
They wrote a letter notifying the town that if a pogrom would occur, they would take action. There would be retribution from the Self-Defense League. In the 50s, with McCarthyism happening, he decided enough is enough, and he writes a book, A Dor was hat verloren die Meure, A Generation That Lost Its Fear. It's his personal story of why he became a communist, why he felt that that was the way of getting rid of the Tsar, and why he felt that this was going to be the path for the Jews, that the Jews would be saved through communism.
Our kids we ran shulas for them. There were secular shulas, of course.
We were reading Parrots. We were reading the sweatshop poets. We were reading, the generation before us, or that were fighting for a better world. How do we transmit it? How do we continue? Well, we're in what we believe to be the world's largest Yiddish chorus, a Besere, Velt, a better world, which we helped found, which is part of the Workmen Circle.
We started what we called a Yiddish Winkel, a Yiddish corner group that we just hosted every week at our house. Every Monday night, come to our house and speak Yiddish.
When we got married and decided to have a family, we decided that this strong cultural life that we were very lucky to have was important to continue. We knew we were going to raise the kids with Yiddishkeit.
A friend of ours, Harry Bachner, so I have to thank Harry too, worked on me for 9 months of gestation. Every Monday night would say, "You're going to teach this baby Yiddish." I said, "No, I've lousy, lousy Yiddish, horrible Yiddish." And finally he said, "Besser zerbrochene Yiddish wie kein Yiddish." Better a broken Yiddish than no Yiddish. And that was a hard argument to argue against. My mother was thrilled. And she was thinking, oh, my Yiddish is so rusty and I have to speak Yiddish I want to speak Yiddish with the grandchildren. So she and Mike's mother found a Yiddish Winkel in New York, a Yiddish conversation group, and started working on their Yiddish to improve their Yiddish. And they do that to this day. So 22 years later, they're still going to a weekly Yiddish conversation group that they love. So it was a benefit for them for us to have their grandparents, for our kids to have their grandparents speaking Yiddish to them, and turned out to be a benefit for them of being able to reconnect with the Yiddish of their childhood.
It would be more surprising to speak Yiddish with our kids if it was merely a question of nostalgia, that we don't want the language to go away, which we don't. But it's also a question of moral compass. Where do you start from? Where do you make decisions? How do you make decisions? Where does the culture come from? Where do your ideals come from?
I'm very happy to see that my kids aren't alone, that there are passels of young adults, some who are having kids and bringing their kids up in Yiddish, that there is a future. Yiddish lebt, Yiddish lives.
There are 3 major things. I'm having kids, they're going to Camp Kinderland, and they're speaking Yiddish. Other than that, I'm negotiable.
To me, it was a necessary choice. Why did we bring up our kids speaking Yiddish and in the shula and everything else? There was no option. If we want our beliefs to be transmitted, our culture has to be transmitted.
Where did all this crazy, very, very Jewish progressivism come from?
I've translated my dad's book. My kids and grandchildren, they wanted to be able, so I started it a few years ago.
To have it laid out in the formative years of joining the Communist Party is so fascinating for understanding my grandfather, for understanding my father, for understanding myself. If you know your history, you'll know who you are and where you're going. That there's just something to having my past yes, in an oral tradition, but also in a very physical, written way, understanding where I come from and who I am.